Well, hello, true gardeners. Today we are in Vero Beach, Florida, and we are going to look at a beautiful front yard garden that we did about a month ago. But I really want to share with you guys this particular space because I think the combination of plants is fantastic. So if you guys are along the Treasure or the Space Coast and you're looking for some plant ideas that are going to really work harmoniously together, pull out your pad because I think these are just doing super, super well in the space, and it might be something that you can just exactly replicate. This front yard is not very big, as you can see, but you can tell there are three distinct sections. We've got full sun in one area, part sun in another area, and nearly full shade in the third section. So this would kind of pertain to a lot of you guys, you DIYers out there that are looking to kind of create your perfect little front yard garden. Please subscribe and let's jump into this video. Come on. So I think we're going to start over here. Actually, I want to start with the area that everybody sees from the road first. Now, this was a troubled area. It was kind of a really troubled spot. When you have this much leaf coverage and leaf foliage, there's a lot of acidity in the ground and a lot of mess. So it's very hard to keep a garden looking pristine. So if that's the case, you kind of got to work with it, you know, work with Mother Nature when it happens like that. And that's what we did in this particular space. So as the backdrop for our height, for our impact, we have two triple pygmy date palms. These guys are full grown now. So this is what they look like when they're full grown. If they were being used in a buffer area, they would be fuller, thicker. But because I want to see the house, I just kind of needed a little bit of softness with some height here. And these are perfect. They're doing just that. They're kind of giving just a little bit of a whimsy feel on either side of the front without hiding the front. And of course, we've got these big mamma jamma oak trees up here, so we could not put anything too tall. Kind of using this as our anchor pieces because of that reason. If I didn't have the complexity of this particular space of shade and the oak tree canopy, I might put something more vertical here, like, you know, maybe two double foxtail palms or two single foxtail palms, something with a little bit more oomph, like you guys see in a lot of my videos. These are really giving a nice bit of punctuation on either side without kind of, you know, getting into the canopy of the trees. We've got a lot of leaf foliage here, so the best thing to do when you have that is find some things that are going to cover that ground. So these big alocasias, these are the dwarf alocasias, believe it or not, they're going to do that. They're going to paddle all the way around. Everything's been recently trimmed, but prior to trimming, they kind of engulfed the base of this tree all the way around it. And of course, 3 times a year, you want to trim those back so that you get nice fullness of those alocasias at the bottom. But right now, they're kind of open and clean. Over time, over the next 3 months, they're going to engulf that tree base again and really kind of give you some camouflage to that bottom. So if you guys have a lot of leaves, those big giant paddle leaves of alocasias will give you almost like a blanket along that base. And then another option would be something like aglaonemas. They have that big giant leaf. The leaf falls down below it because the leaf just flutters down, and then those big giant leaves cover it. You can also use something as simple as variegated arbicolas. The leaves aren't so big, but they're so dense that the leaves go underneath of them, and it gives you, again, a blanket along the ground. And so those will fall in line with that same type of planting where we have filtered light, more of a shady area here. As our next standard focal points are going to be these silver odoratas. They are so cool. When I have a bit of darkness in the garden, I hope this comes across on camera. I know it doesn't always, but silver odoratas are such a bright spot in a garden. And I just love that. When you need something to kind of really bounce some light off of, you can use something in the white families or something in the silver family or yellows. But it's hard to find yellow in shade. We have a little bit of yellow in these ice tone crotons. We've got some yellow and lime green. You can kind of see the color palette of these ice tone crotons. Now there's very little sun here, you guys, and look at how much beautiful growth they're giving off of. Not just in the shade, but it's also winter. So, I mean, they're really, you know, we're in December and they're really just fleshing out beautiful with some beautiful color still. And then as it gets colder and colder, you'll notice the color will go darker and darker, and then till spring, and then everything fleshes out for the rest of the year with all beautiful kind of variations of color. So they have their seasons for sure, but those seasons last super, super long. We might get a month or two where they go a little bit dark, but after that, they're golden. And in your planning of this kind of landscape design, you can see that these plants really branch out. So if you're going to use things like dwarf alocasias or bigger leafed crotons, you're going to want to give yourself a little bit of distance. So our alocasias are about 2.5 to 3 foot off of the house line, and the crotons, because these are dwarfed crotons, are 2 foot off the house line. That gives it a little bit of room to grow in, a little bit of room to squeeze by. If you have more depth in your garden, you could totally get away with putting everything 3 foot off of the house line. That gives gives you plenty of room for grow-in room and walkway space to kind of get to the windows if you need to shutter them, or, you know, pressure wash or whatever the case may be. It also really helps with maintenance. To be able to maintain to the back of the bed and then maintain to the front of the bed is so ideal. It's just such a nice little treat. To the front, we just dialed in some little small handheld boulders. So these are some small guys just to kind of give a little bit of interest along this area. And then some small bromeliads. These are just the neo bromeliads. They kind of take that filtered light very, very well. And it's just to kind of give an underplanting of interest here. And then outlined the borders with liriope. We have a little touch of foxtail ferns right here in this particular spot, and they just look so lovely. And anytime you have it in one loop, if you can kind of create it and put it into a secondary loop, that really does a nice job of giving you balance with that kind of texture. And that's what we have here. We have a little clustering of foxtail ferns right here. It's just 3, but it's just enough to kind of make sure that we understood that there's some pretty good balance in this front. So I think it turned out quite nice. And you guys might have a similar problem as this particular bed here, where majority of it is in the shade, and then you just kind of go over a little bit and then boom, you're in full sun and you're like, oh, okay. So you've got to make sure that you work with that. Change up the plant material to fit the space. Really get a good eye on how much sun you get during the day, how much sun it gets filtered light, how much sun, if you have a total shade time period, you really want to have a good idea of that. So everything that you see behind me can handle full shade to filtered light. And of course, these palm trees can do both. They can handle full sun and full shade, which is ideal. But then we come around this corner and we get full sun. If you guys like this kind of content, then please like and subscribe. A lot of you guys that watch my videos week after week are not subscribers, and it's free. I don't know if you knew that, but it's free. So subscribe, because that helps push my videos out into the algorithm, which is a big giant thank you to Bryce and I that you guys are liking these videos. So right here, like literally where I was standing was complete darkness. This is complete sun, and you get the bounce back heat from the driveway and the house. So it's really, really hot sun. So I know sometimes it can be hard to figure out which, how to pair that, how to pair your material, and then still have the same kind of theme going all the way through. So you can see where the liriope stops right on that corner. Then we started in with something that's blooming, because why not capitalize on that sun? So we've got a little hot spot of a staggered grouping of Blew My Minds. And look, they're open, they're beautiful, they're so happy. I just love this little clustering. It's just a very nice thank you that there's some sun here. And then right behind those, we have the dwarf Helen Johnson bougainvillea. These are gonna make a beautiful clustering of pink flowers. Very, very easy to keep low. You'll see them blooming in other sections of the garden, but I can see that the leaf change is kind of coming on those, so they're getting ready to turn. We're getting ready to get some color. Now I know bougainvillea gets a bad rap, you guys, but these are the baby bougainvillea, the dwarf bougainvillea. These are the ones that are easily kept this size forever. So if you're looking for that bougainvillea pop of color and you want it more of in a clustered grouping, make sure to pick up the Helen Johnson variety. They do so well paired with something like Blew My Minds or liriope, foxtail ferns. Those are all in the drought tolerant family, and agave. All of this material right here, this combination, if it's a look that you like, it pairs so, so well together. Then you've got the variegation of these crazy kind of wild looking Song of India. And then you've got the false agave as the centerpiece. So you got a little wild and crazy here, a little bit more streamlined there, then it drops down to a ground cover of color there. And I think just the combination of how these colors play off of each other do so, so well. And if you like this grouping, this is a long, sustainable grouping. This is a grouping that really, really does well. Just make sure you layer them accordingly, because those, you know, only get 2 foot. These are ideal for around 3 foot. These are perfect for 3 to 4 feet. So you can see the pattern drop down to the liriope, which are 1 feet. So it's really a nice stair-step effect with the centerpiece of this guy, false agave, coming out of the middle of it. So we're gonna hop over to the next most seen section. So this is also mainly seen from the road, and I feel like it really is just a nice little grouping. Originally there was a hedge here, it was pretty closed off, but I think this made a nice island planting. It gets good sun exposure. We're kind of in the shade section of it now, but it gets great morning sun and then it gets filtered light the rest of the day, and it's doing so well. So those of you guys who are concerned about bougainvilleas not blooming in a filtered light environment, these are doing fantastic, growing well, nice and dense, and this gets all morning sun to about 1 o'clock, and then after that it starts getting into that filtered light. So definitely not full shade, but it does have filtered light throughout the day. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this is a design that we created and installed, and we do that here in Vero Beach, Florida. Along the Vero and the Space Coast area, we do a landscape design and installation. So we kind of see you from the very beginning of the design process all the way to getting the shovels in the ground and getting things completed. So I love to work with different styles, but this is my favorite style to work with, that tropical blend. So if that's a look that you like and you're looking for either a landscape designer or a landscape contractor, then please feel free to reach out to us. Those of you guys who are DIYing it, I hope I put enough information in to where you can recreate these styles. Landscaping's tricky, especially in our area. So these are processes and these are groupings that work well together. So if you like them, work with them. I promise you'll be happy with them. Okay, so right here we have a very young false agave, and then we've got some bougainvilleas, and then draped right along the front in kind of like a nice little surfed curve. Keep in mind, you guys, every time you have a accent feature, make sure to just dial it in with a ground cover or something to curve around the base of it, just to kind of give it like a little bit of a support system. So normally, if this tree wasn't here, this bougainvillea would curve to the back around the rear side of this, kind of curving this way with some height, and this ground cover would curve the opposite way and really kind of frame the accent feature. So if you guys don't have something like a palm tree in the way of that, that is a great way to frame a feel and give you that layered feel without much work at all. Blue My Minds are so easy to work with. You can also use something like Mexican heather. Those work well as a ground cover. Of course, liriope, like we have over there, work well as a ground cover, but what you want to make sure to do is don't put anything that's going to compete with the size of this plant. Keeping these guys around 3 to 4 foot is going to be nice in this particular space because that's going to give us our layers that we need in this little island. We have a centerpiece tree of an existing pygmy date palm that was here that we worked with. And then of course, then we kind of a rinse and repeat. We have a nice grouping of bougainvillea with a little dollop of foxtail ferns that again come straight and then curve their way up. Anytime you guys can do that, you can have one curving this way, one curving that way. It makes for an interesting plant, especially as things mature. This is a young landscaping, but it's really on its way. So I think it's going to come together very nicely over a short period of time. And one of the things that I don't really talk about very often, but I do think it adds a little ambiance to a garden, is landscape lighting. So those of you guys who are doing it yourself, it is definitely a doable project. You know, make sure that you do a layered lighting effect. So this particular house, we didn't do the lighting on, but it prompted my mind when I saw the spotlights out here. If you got something like the size of what a pygmy date palm is, you know it's going to be around 5 or 6 foot when you plant it, but it's going to turn into around something around 10 to 11 foot. You want something along the lines of a 4 to 5 watt. That wattage is ideal. You don't want to go any stronger than that because that'll just blast out the tree, and all you're really trying to create is a shadow effect. However, if you got something like a foxtail palm or a royal palm or something that's really going to get some really good size, then you want to go with nothing lower than a 7 watt bulb. That is fantastic to really work with and light up that trunk line and get all the way up into that canopy of that tree. Even if your foxtail palm is only 10 foot tall, maybe it's only a 30 gallon that you put in, plan for it to be a big boy and put a 7 watt bulb in there and shine it right up into that tree. And that's going to be an ideal way to make sure when you're looking at things to have a layered light. That goes the same for things like these false agaves. I love putting lights on the false agaves because again, they give you that fantastic shadow effect. However, I don't usually use a spotlight for those. You want to get kind of the wide lens light for that. They call them wall lights, and normally you'll see them on walls of houses, but they have a diffuser in them that kind of softens. It'll kind of give just a diffused look to that whole agave. So you get a really beautiful shadow effect, and you want something like a 2 watt bulb on that. Let's jump into the last bed in this front yard. So we are in the front bed section. This is right by coming up to the front door area. And this also framed by the big driveway that's here. So we chose to go with stone here because there was constant runoff of mulch going into this driveway that pitches down towards the road. So the rock really did a fantastic job of solving that problem. Before you could see the mulch tidbits all the way down the driveway. So this is working out perfectly, which is great. So we have 1 to 3 inch Rainbow River rock here, which is a round rock. This rock that I like to use in the landscape beds. Definitely not one that I would want to walk on or have traffic on, but it's perfect for landscaping beds. So it's a nice decorative light colored stone. I think it does a nice job of highlighting the ground. And then the next big item in this guy is a Montgomery triple. Look how gorgeous this big boy is. Just kind of framing the left side of this house. You can kind of see where this is where the house dips down, and then the roof line is nice and peaked on the opposite side. So we did need something big, something pretty dramatic to really kind of help balance out this side of the house. And I think that this Montgomery palm is doing a lovely job of that. Just to soften the two sides and to give the Montgomery palm a little bit of backing on this blank wall, we have two rafis palms, or lady palms, whatever you like to call them. They're being kept as like a bunched planting. Now these guys can spread, they can get big and long and run if you let them, but if you stay on top of it, they're very easy to keep clipped and keep bunched the way you want. So they're one of those trees that you do have to maintain, and it's not super crazy maintenance. I mean, every 3 months if you came out and just did some clipping on them, you're done. That's what it takes. If that's not you and you really kind of want the look without the worry, then find a nice big low belly pot, something that's kind of short and stacked but big and round. They grow really well in a shallow pot, but they do need some width, some size to it to really keep that big umbrella look to them. Put that in a pot right there, put a little pot mister in there, and you're golden, because it's gonna be so nice to kind of give you some chunkiness to that side. And then of course, in the pot, they're not gonna outgrow that space because they'll be contained. So you wanna know generally, is this an area that you wanna block some view line from? Do you want something bigger, like a pygmy date palm, something with more foliage here to kind of give you some privacy in these windows? Or do you want to have free ownership of this outdoor space and have all the light that pops in through there and keep something more dramatic, something that's gonna stay rather small in this area? Those are questions to really know before you meet with your contractor or when you're planning out your own landscaping. So in this particular case, these windows were lovely. This wasn't a huge space, so I definitely wanted to keep it open. I put the chunkier material on the sides along the wall. Letting them get a couple foot taller is going to be perfect. And then having this guy in here was going to give you some substance, which false agaves do so well. It's going to get around that 4.5, 5 foot tall, but it's going to be a 4.5, 5 foot tall like this. We're going to see right through it. So it'll give you impact without the coverage and take away absolutely no light from those windows. Right to the back, we wanted to keep this super clean, super simple. So we have dwarf coleusias right to the back, and they do a nice job of really giving you a clean, kind of rounded shaped little plant. I know most of you guys, everybody loves the regular coleusias, those big giant succulent looking leaves. These are the same leaves. They're just itty bitty little tiny guys, and they're super easy to keep so nice and rounded. I love the texture to them, and I love the shine. Another plant that kind of gives you a similar look is a green island ficus. It grows a little bit more aggressive, and it grows a little faster, but it is quite a nice dense plant. So this one's a little easier to work with, but doesn't grow quite as dense as the green island ficus. So those are two really good alternatives. Another thing, if you wanted to use in this back section and you were in full sun, would be Pringle's podocarpus. That's a completely different texture, but it's dark green, and it really is easy to maintain a small planting. So it's not getting in this height line, not turning into a hedge like an arbicola. It's gonna always stay in this range and no bigger, which is really perfect for here. It's almost like you want a hint of a barrier, but not a wall. Then right here, we got a little wild and crazy because we needed some brightness. We've got green and we've got green and we've got green. So we needed something a little more fun, like the Song of India that we have here. So we have a kind of a halo effect around the rear side of the false agave with the Song of India. Now these guys are ready to be trimmed. The best way to keep them nice and full is to trim these tops right here. So you can nip all of those tops and they'll push out growth from the middle. And what you want to do is keep encouraging that growth. If you let this guy, he will kind of push out this limb all the way up to here. And that's not what you want. We want a hedge grouping of a little wild and crazy leaves. And that's what you're going to get here. If you just nip off those tops, it'll push out energy down below. So that's the goal with these guys. So they'll make a nice little halo to the back as they chunk out. And then right below where Bryce is standing is a nice collection of Helen Johnson bougainvillea. Just a nice overall cool plant. They can handle dry temperatures, and these can handle a little bit more water than your typical bougainvillea. And you can see they can be maintained very clean line, or they can be left more casual. One of the questions I commonly get is rock really unhealthy for your plants? Yes and no. You know, your rock can really heat up the ground. So during our summer months, our June, July, August, you guys know they're brutal. Those of you guys who don't go up north and you're here during those times, you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty brutal. They will create a just hot pocket in the garden. So what you want to make sure, if you're planting in rock, use rock lovable material, things that do not mind getting hot. Dwarf bougainvillea blew my minds. Song of India, dwarf collusia, and so on. All right, you guys, so that does it for our front yard garden tour. I hope you got some really good ideas and some inspiration from it. If you need more inspiration, then you know to reach out to your girl. She's a landscape designer and be happy to meet with you to kind of create something beautiful. Those DIYers out there, we did a video last week that was lovely. Me and Bryce talking about how to get started, the steps kind of to take as in creating your outdoor space and making it perfect and making it yours. So hopefully some of those tidbits from us will help you guys create something beautiful. So we will put that right here and you guys can click on that and enjoy. We will see you next weekend for a brand new garden tour. Thank you guys so much for visiting. It was fun. Take care.